I would like to commend the mayor and the aldermen on the job they do in the department heads. Y'all do a wonderful job.
Stacy's been hearing me. I'm glad to finally see him stand up and say something. Next item on the agenda is item D. Consider final action on the ordinance amending the Henderson zoning ordinance, reduces required parking places for most commercial and industrial uses, lowers the required square footage of parking stalls to 180 square feet, and 3, allows further incentives to reduce the minimum parking requirements. Brent, can you kind of go over and give us a quick synopsis, kind of what we did last meeting?
The Plan Commission had made these recommendations to the mayor and board, and we're looking at adding, allowing another size parking stall to reduce the width and increase the length. Continue to have the same stall, but hopefully would allow people who come in with plans on a national level that have that certain size could meet their criteria, and depending on the size of your lot, the way it's configured, you could get more spaces into a little bit less, or if you have the width, you want the width, you can still have the 10 by 20s.
Does it not lower the minimum required square footage from 200 down to 180?
It would, but if you're a property owner, you can still have a 10 by 20.
No, I know it. I'm saying it.
But we're dealing with a minimum now. We're not dealing with a maximum.
Right.
If you want a bigger stall, if, say, for instance, Freed Hardman came in and they wanted a larger stall, we have nothing against that. We're just saying what the minimum is.
But we are with this ordinance lowering the minimum.
It is.
Okay, I wanted to be sure I understood that. I was I think a no vote last time on this simply because I was looking at 3 points. There are incentives that can lower the number of spaces required. And I felt like for commercial, that 10 by 20 was a good minimum, and you could take advantage of some of the incentives to lower the total number of spaces. It's not going to mean that you have to asphalt more, you're just effectively using the space. I felt like it made it more customer friendly, a little bit wider spaces. I thought it would help the businesses in the long run. One other objection that I had then, and I come back to it again, is we're lowering the square footage in a parking spot 20 square feet. Go from 10 by 20 down to some combination of them that gets 180. But the way this ordinance reads, it also lowers the space that you have to provide behind it, between the parking stalls. I mean, not a row, but it lowers it from 400 square feet traffic flow down to 300. So there's another 80 square feet that is being removed somewhere by this ordinance. Is that not correct?
If you look at your math, I guess you could say that, but we still have a schematic that says if you park at a 90-degree angle, there's got this much room of driving space.
Right, and we're lowering it from a total.
We're still got that much room of driving space in your lane.
What's the 300 down to? What's the 400 down to 300?
That was a general idea of what size space. If you've got, say, 3,000 square feet, that would be how you would figure. Divided by 300 equals X amount of spaces plus turning radius. So you'd get basically 10 in there. That would give you your parking stall plus your driving lanes. But we still have a number, a chart, that based on the angle of parking, you have to have a minimum size driving lane.
That didn't ever change. That's been the same. It's going to be the same.
The distance between them will stay the same.
That's correct. And these are all good. What you mentioned here is a good thing. We had some of those brought up at the meeting. We have a meeting every first Wednesday night of the month. And we'd love for people to come out and talk to us about their feelings on these type of issues, maybe before the planning commission suggested to the board of mayor and alderman.
I know one thing that we discussed in the planning committee was the smaller businesses that only have room for like 3, 4, 5 spots. The smaller lot would give them 1, maybe 2 extra parking spaces. They wouldn't get those if they had the bigger, if they had to make them like the 10 by.
That's
10 to
correct.
20. And that's what we were looking at, more the smaller people that could not have that many parking spots. Now the larger, bigger business, they could have the 9 by 18s and get more there. They want more customers to park. So it was kind of a, what do we do to give it? So we thought we would give them a choice if they want a 10 by 20 like it is, or the 9 by 18. At least they would have a choice. And that's kind of what the planning committee looked at. We thought we'd just do that, and that would kind of, because what we have now is not being enforced anyway. We got 9 by 18s, that's all we've got here, with, I think, exception of the Church of Christ. I think they're 10 by 20s. And so we just said, well, what do we do? Well, whatever we do, we need to enforce. Either need to be, if they can have a 10 by 20, let them have it, and if they're going to build a 10 by 9 by 18, enforce that. Whatever we do, we need to take care of and enforce whatever we do.
Gives a few more options. Like I said, and it still doesn't make you have to have a 9 by, you can have a 10 by 20.
But it'd have to be at least a 9 by 20 to work with.
I think that's correct.
No, I agree, I absolutely agree with all the parents. Whatever we come up with, that we don't let people get lower than that.
Yes, sir.
What's fair for one person ought to be fair for everybody. And I know this just applies to new businesses, new.
That's correct. We're not doing anything retro on existing, and we have every size parking space that you could imagine. And it doesn't affect the handicap spaces, which are federally mandated.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make one comment on that. It's fine with me to use those numbers, 8 by 19, is that right?
9 by 18.
9 by 18,
9 by
okay.
20.
It's fine with me. I voted for it last time. I will vote for it again, for that to be the minimum, because that's what the planning commission discussed and presented to us, and that's what we have a planning commission for, to look at these things as they come up and make decisions and present it to the board of aldermen. But there was some mention, I don't recall who, it's been a month, so I don't recall who, but about what size the parking spaces are at the new Church of Christ. The new parking lot beside the building, they're all 10 by 20. I know because I measured a bunch of them myself on that following Saturday. And then the old parking lot, which is over there behind the Jerry Siler property, they are larger than that. And they're all 10 by 20 or larger.
So if the church so see it fit, I guess they could go and restripe them and make them smaller now to get more parking in there.
If they wanted to, it shouldn't be their choice. As long as you don't get over or under, you can have anything you want.
That's correct. Larger, like I said, we're just dealing with the minimum.
Yeah, right. It's going to be an individual choice to have as many you want or whatever. I don't see any problem.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion on the ordinance.
Make a motion to approve the ordinance as written.
Have a motion to approve the ordinance as written on final reading. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any other further discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ferris?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yes.
5 voted in favor, 1 against.
Ordinance passes. Next item on the agenda, item E, consider a resolution approving employees' cost of living adjustment and the standard pay scales for the 2014-2015 budget year. Jim?
As discussed during the budget meetings, this is our standard resolution we pass each and every year concerning pay raises. As part of the resolution, you have appendices or exhibits where you're adopting the standard pay scales for the utility department, the public works department, the step raises for the building and zoning official. He has 3 more of those that he can get. And then the last one is middle management and department head pay scales. The ones we don't have scales on and never have is regular police and fire. You know, that's 2 departments that we haven't got a turnover. We never adopted those scales. They're done based on an individual basis when we hire. They're also included in this is the standard longevity pay that we pay around Christmas time. It is the same as the previous years we've had for the last several years based on the number of years of service. We do want to call your attention to Section 3. We discussed giving Ms. Holder a separate step raise for completing her CMFO, Certified Municipal Finance Officer certification, and that is spelled out in Section 3 of the resolution instead of actually on the pay scale as discussed. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. And of course, it does include the 2.5% COLA raises for everybody.
I certainly think that needing a second person on hand, the Certified Municipal Finance Officer certification is good. Jim, you have it, and I think it's good that we have someone else in place that could help with that. This is a little separate, say, from the certifications that Brent is getting and using. This would be a certification that we really, at this point, given the duties, it's paying her to take the test, to recertify, etc. And I would think that we discussed this in some length at the meeting, and I'm still more comfortable that at this point, given the current set of duties that doesn't really utilize that certification on a daily basis, that set it at $1 at this point, and should the duties change where she's using that, maybe a realignment or something, that then we revisit the 50+ cents or whatever extra we think based on the changing duties. I would be more comfortable at that point. That way, when she actually starts using it on a daily basis, then she gets rewarded. We can step back and say we need to change it again because you are utilizing it.
Yes.
So I would like to offer an amendment to the budget to change that from $1.50 to $1 at this point, and be revisited when the duties get changed.
I've got a couple of questions I asked her earlier, but I wanted to ask her publicly. Number one, and we pay her to go to the classes.
Yes, we do.
We pay her a regular salary.
Her regular salary, we pay for the classes.
Okay, we pay for the classes.
Yes.
And we pay her travel.
Normally, city policy, I don't necessarily see those checks, but yes, normal policy would be for an employee to turn in a mileage statement.
Who would have that?
Mark would know because he would be signing the checks. I'm not sure she's turned any
Yeah, I don't think
in
she
now,
has.
but she's qualified to get it. Myself and the mayor are the same way. We go to Jackson all the time. We never turn in a ticket either. But the policy does state, yes, they can turn in
They
a
can turn in,
expense voucher.
they do not get per diem if they're not out of the city more than 10 hours of the policy. 10, 12.
It's 12.
But it's their own vehicle.
But they take their own vehicle. if
They do
they're
get
not available,
mileage.
They get the mileage for going to Jackson and back, but they don't. If you're not out of city more than 12 hours, you don't get the per diem.
All right.
And most classes in Jackson, you don't. You'll only get your mileage if you take a personal vehicle.
Okay.
This is like any certification. Going up there and taking the class is not the end of it. She's got to spend her personal time studying and stuff, and I think that's part of what I feel like we've got to provide an incentive for someone to get a certification and maintain it, because once she gets it, Jim, I'm sure there's some continuing?
There's a minimum of 24 hours a year of certain training that we would have to attend. I do, and she would too once she receives certification each and every year. Some of that is in Jackson, some of it's in Murfreesboro. It depends on where you can find the training that will qualify under the comptroller's rules. Only certain training will qualify. But we will cover that expense, whatever that is.
I certainly agree with Alderman Smith, and I think that all is sufficient at this time. So, I was just trying to clarify how she was getting paid while she was going and stuff like that, to make sure that we were compensating her for the time.
Yes, it is during the regular work day she does get her pay.
Can you give a quick synopsis on what the CMFO is and why we're all dealing with it right now?
Okay, Certified Municipal Finance Officer got passed approximately 4 to 5 years ago by the state legislature. It requires every municipality to have someone on staff or hire someone that is a Certified Municipal Finance Officer or a CPA to do their books. Immediately the first year, well, they actually divided into 3 groups of people that went based on their city size of revenues. We, because our gas department just fell into the biggest class, so I had to go the first time through. So every city has to have at least one on staff. It's a total of, I believe it's 12 or 13 classes, and you have to pass 12 or 13 tests, and it's all related to finance, both for enterprise funds and accounting, financial reporting, etc. I saw a lot of people have trouble getting the certifications. A lot of people had to take tests over again. I was lucky and didn't. I had enough experience, I think, and studied enough that I was able to pass them. And Alicia is very qualified, and she's having no trouble thus far. She's about halfway through. She's probably done 5 or 6 at this point. She'll finish up about the end of the year. So this raise will not go into effect till about December, January, when she actually finishes and gets her certification. After that, you have to receive 24 hours of ongoing training each and every year that's approved by the comptroller in order to maintain your certificate. If for any reason the city loses their CMFO, such as I go somewhere else or I get hit by a bus, is my favorite saying. That'd be hard to do in Henderson, but if I did get hit by a bus, the city has 1 year from that date to have a Certified Municipal Finance Officer on staff. Well, considering the class takes about a year to get through, a lot of cities now, when they lose their person, they're having to go hire somebody from outside that's already got it. So that's driving salaries up, and people are getting more scarce. So we felt like this was a good move to go ahead and get a second person qualified that we could have here on staff in case something did happen to me. She could step in and serve in that slot till we decided what to do at that point, or y'all decided what to do.
Good insurance policy.
Yes, it is.
And we're very fortunate to have someone that's got it.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's a plus.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
With that being said, I'm going to make a motion that we approve the pay resolution with the amendment of the $1 instead of $1.50 for Ms. Alicia Holden.
Have a motion to the amendment. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion on the resolution? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ferris?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yes.
All voted in favor.
Next item on the agenda is item F, consider passage of the 2014-2015 city budget and tax rate on first reading. The tax rate will remain the same at $1.22 per 100 of assessed value. A public hearing and final reading of the budget will take place at the July meeting. Jim?
This is the budget that, well, let me back up here just a little bit. This is not exactly the budget you saw at the last meeting. I went back through and made some adjustments that we did discuss. The health insurance was not going to go up. We did find that out since the last meeting we had on this, so I adjusted those numbers down slightly. But other than that, I think we had to adjust a couple of the grants that have not finished up, such as the city park grant. Because I was expecting to be done by June 30, I had to actually change my numbers for this year, roll some into next year, and also the street lighting for Highway 100 intersections. It's not going to be finished. So I had to adjust a few numbers like that. It really is not changing anything other than moving it from the current year into next year's budget. The actual capital outlay carryover actually increased by making those changes. Next year is projected to be $475,000. I believe the last budget y'all saw was about $410,000, $415,000. if memory serves me correctly. So as you see, we didn't increase the budget, we actually increased our reserves just a little bit based on the changes made. I'll be happy to answer any questions about line items in the budget if you have questions. Other than that, the tax rate does remain the same. That's been consistent now for several years at $1.22.
And I think the other two things we've had, we were talking about, but once you go over that one, once you go over both of them.
Okay, well, one of them is the roof for City Hall here. We did not budget any money for that repair. We have talked to a couple people, and we're expecting the price to be, pushing upward number about $50,000. So that money would have to come from capital outlay if we do expense that. If we do that, y'all have bids for that, of course, and make that approval at that time. So with that money's not actually earmarked in any one line item. And the other item was the server room?
Server room.
The budget does include money for the server room. There was already some money in the budget for some computer upgrades. I just added $15,000 to that line item to cover the cost estimated for the server room. So it has been put into a line item. But it was an existing line item that has computers already in it. So
that was the only two things. About the roof, we talked to the person on the roof, and they're going to give us specs on the roof to go. We can go with that time tunnel. I have to go out and bid and see what it is. But it's definitely not what the first guy said it would cost us. But still.
First guy was going to fix it there, cost so much you couldn't walk on it.
And this one, the materials that they're talking about putting on it would be a tougher material that you can't walk on. We've got to service all those air conditioners up there.
Yeah, we got to take care of that.
We got to take care of that. So, but we'll get some bids back on that. The whole thing, the big thing is also doing the shingle part in the front, and then also the flashing and everything else. He's going to have it itemized with specs. Because what I want to be able to do is everybody bidding on apples. Everybody bidding the same thing. I don't, and so we all have a good idea what we're going to have when they bid it. So we'll make a good informed decision on if we choose to do that. I'll entertain a motion on the first reading.
I move we accept the budget as presented.
Have a motion to accept the budget as presented on the first reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Mr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ferris?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yeah.
All voted in favor.
Okay, we'll have the second reading plus the public hearing for that July 2. Next item on the agenda, item G, consider bid received on purchase of sewer camera. Mark.
Thank you, sir. As I mentioned in the utility budget meeting, we've gone out to bid on a sewer camera. There was a question that arose on the work equipment account. If you turned in your packet to, I think it's the third page from the rear, is the capital expenditure budget for the utility department. And if you go down to about the center of the page under the sewer department, you see the account 413-16-452, which is the work account. There's two items there. You see $7,000 and $82,000. Okay. We did go back and do an investigation and found that there was two expenses that we had not accounted for this year. One was the failure of the meter reading equipment, and the sewer department's portion of that expense was about $2,500. And then the state of Tennessee required all municipalities that had a sewer lab to purchase some additional equipment for that laboratory. That was about $7,500. Okay, so as it shook out, it was about $6,807.15 over. Okay, expecting to purchase the jetter and the sewer can. Okay, the second one under $82,000 shows on the right $37,405, which according to the bids, if you turn over to G1, the lowest bid we had for the equipment that we did want was $38,669. So we're within, I believe, about $800 of making that bid. Okay. There was one other thing that I wanted to mention to you in the budget meeting that I didn't get to, was that we do have two pieces of equipment that we plan on putting up and getting rid of, now this won't go into that account, this will just go into revenue. One is the old sewer jetter. We still have not sold that piece of equipment, and a piece of equipment called the solar beam, which was out in a different lagoon. Those two pieces of equipment should yield somewhere between $9,000 and $15,000. Okay, so although it does go into revenue, that money could be earmarked, if you so wish, to move over into that account to assist us in being able to buy the sewer camera. I strongly urge you to approve the purchase. It's something that the department desperately needs. It will also allow us to deal with some of the I&I issues that we have. We have a new sewer camera. We're able to wash out the mains. There's some new technology where you can slip a small liner in, about a 4-foot liner for dealing with some of the breaks. But our sewer camera can only be pushed in 100 feet. Sewer manholes are about 500 feet apart. So depending on which end you go in, you've got about a 300-foot section in the center that we cannot see. So with that, again, I urge your approval of the purchase. It can be done within this year's budget, and delivery can be made before the end of the year.
I have, mathematically, I have one question. If we're over on just the work equipment by $6,800, right?
Yes, sir.
And you've got 37 left in for the camera. 37,000, and
Yeah.
that means basically the difference between that and the lowest bid is about $1,260-something. $1,264, really.
Maybe I did my math incorrectly,
But
but
how do really we only got in that line? That's both those two items you're referencing are all in one account line.
yes, sir.
That means we've got less than $31,000 left in that account. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So we're asking us to spend
38.6, so you're looking at $9,000 more is what you're looking at.
out of this year's budget,
Yes, out of this year's budget.
which would
Of course.
roll over to next year.
Yes, well, of course, the utility department budget is a little different than the general fund budget, because the capital expenditures are accounted for in a different way and they're expensed through depreciation. It doesn't hit your bottom line and your profit and loss at all, other than through your depreciation numbers. And so your depreciation is going to be affected the same way, whether you buy it really in June or July, it's going to be sort of the difference. But yes, we are going to exceed the budget roughly for the one line item, approximately $9,000. But that's not necessarily an unusual thing for the utility department to do because the way the budgeting is done there.
They cover the shortfall or something like that.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And they're not really short, they're just short in that line.
They're just shorting that line. Yeah, every year we pass the capital budget, it is an estimate, and it takes y'all to, of course, y'all approve any big purchase anyway, so really y'all approve the overruns as you go along, just like you would do tonight if you approve the camera.
Well, I know we need to get a handle on the I-9. I think, that's one thing that's definitely we've got issues with. And if we're gonna buy it, we need to go ahead and buy it and start using it. But I want to see it used. Don't need to sit in the box somewhere.
May I speak?
Yes,
Y'all know me, I'm Tanya, I'm over the sewer department. Our plans is to start a program where we use the sewer rotter, the new one that we got, to clean the lines, and then I go behind it with the camera. And it all goes on DVDs or on a little camera. The one we've got was bought 16 years ago, something like that, and it's a push camera. So if there's an inch of water, you can't see. Bobby, you were there that day, and the mayor was, when we had a customer couldn't figure out what the problem was, and we had to try to shove this down the main. You can't see anything because it's underwater. This camera that we have was made for service lines, and which we do use that. We try to help the customers, if they have problems, we try to use that. That's going to be the only way that we can actually find out what's going on in our mains.
And this is going to be hopefully used on a regular basis daily.
Yes, sir.
To search our I&I issues and look at different things. And I just don't want to see it sitting on a box on the shelf or somewhere in a truck and not being used. If we pay this much for a piece of equipment, I want it out there doing what it's supposed to do.
Well, there's certain spots, like on Sand Avenue, every 3 months I have a sewer stoppage in the main, but I have no idea why. And so the ones that, and I keep files on every sewer stoppage we have. So I'm hoping to start with those first and figure out what our problems are. When we have stoppages downtown, we have clay pipes that's been in there 15, 60 years. And there's times when we're using the sewer rotor and you see pieces of clay pipe come out. So, I mean, we've got problems. We're just going to have to use the camera to find out what the problems are. And then I've already talked to Jim about this, making a list of all the problems and start with the worst problem and then work your way down.
We've had to rent the camera before from someone else, is that correct?
JDA, it's extremely expensive. They have to they can come down on a large truck that's attached to their truck, so I have to pay for the truck time and 2 men.
I mean, I just want to be sure I had the numbers straight, but I think we got to get it. I think we got to use it. Tanya, I think you're going to use it from what I make a motion that we accept the low bid from Improved Construction Methods for the camera.
Second. Have a motion to approve the low bid, 38,669. Have a second. Is there any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye. Aye. All opposed, signify by no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item H. Consider amendments to certain line items in the 2013-2014 general budget. Jim?
Okay. We are talking about amending the current year budget. And used to, we did this in July of each year for the previous year. And the auditor said that's no good. We do it after the end of the fiscal year. So I have to back up. We have to do it in June each year. A lot of years we pass an ordinance actually amending the total budget amounts. This year we did a little better based on what we did. And I was able to make transfers within each department. So we're not having to actually do an ordinance to amend the entire budget. All we're doing is amending line items within each department's budget. I gave you an Excel spreadsheet showing you the adds and the subtracts to the line items. So basically I had to find a line item that they had money left in their budget, move that money to places where they were running over or going to run over by June 30. And of course I had to estimate these last 30 days, and hopefully my department heads will hit that close and not go over again. So if you have questions about anything that ran over, the biggest one deals with the STP project for lighting of the bypass. When we passed the budget last year, we didn't actually put any money in the budget for the project at all because we didn't know where we would be in the process. Of course, it has now been. We're having expenses come out of that. So I actually put $100,000 of the approximately, what was it, it's $400 and something thousand project that'll come out of this year. The remainder will be hopefully in next year's budget. That's one of those that you don't know until June 30 where the money's going to be. And at the same point, I had to do the revenue accounts differently and adjust some of the money away from the park grant and into the street lighting in order to make that work. So that's sort of where I am on both of those, and that's the reason for the adjustments. It's just these grants it's depending on which budget it falls in is all the difference it's making. It's not changing the totals at all. But only the other small line items, I'll be happy to answer questions.
I'll make a motion to approve budget line item amendments.
Have a motion to approve the line item amendment. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second. Any further discussion? I need a roll call vote on this one.
Not on this one because it's not an ordinance or resolution, either one.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye. Aye. All opposed signify by no. Motion carries. Next item is consider resolution supporting the Memphis Regional Mega Site in Haywood County. What this is everybody knows, the state of Tennessee purchased the land in Haywood County because they're trying to get the mega site. What has happened during the time, one county, for some reason, is fighting the mega site. And then what's happened is the mega site board plus the Southwest Development District has came to us and asked the counties and cities to submit a resolution supporting the mega site, which for us is kind of a no-brainer. We like to have the mega site go there and have a plant there that people can go and do jobs. What they want to do with these resolutions is send them to the state representatives in Nashville, explain that only one county is against this, the rest of the counties are supporting it. And they're asking us to pass a resolution supporting the mega site. It's not asking for anything but our support. They move forward. It's our blessing. They're trying to say one county is against it for some reason, and it seems like they're fighting it every time they turn around, and they're just trying to get show us especially the state representatives from Middle Tennessee and East Tennessee, the rest of West Tennessee is for us. And that's what they're asking.
Well, I'll make the motion to adopt the resolution supporting the Memphis Regional Mega Site in Haywood County.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Ms. Faulkner. Roll call vote.
Mr. Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ferris?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Barnes?
Yes.
Ms. Faulkner?
Yes.
Mr. Manus?
Yeah.
All voted in favor.
Bart, do you have anything?
No.
Brent?
I do have one thing. The property next to the fire department that the city now owns, I believe, the Smith property, we asked for a quote on the price to demolish the house, remove all the trees, and we got that today, not to exceed $7,000 for removal of the house, structures, and all trees.
Like the fire department doing a pretty good job. We did some really good training, don't you know?
Sorry, what do you want me? I have three quick items. One is the water main leak that Ms. Faulkner had mentioned has been resolved. The second thing is, if anybody has any questions about the excavation that's going on down at Church and Main, I've been dealing with the contractor on that. I can answer any of your questions. The last thing is tomorrow I'm going to a gas meeting as part of our user group. Tennessee Gas Pipeline is intending to file another rate increase with FERC, and I'm going to find out what's going to happen with that. I'll be able to report back to you, and I think I'm going to do it a little early. I'm going to try to send you guys out an email as to what the extent they're expecting it to be, but I do expect that there should be some increases in our transportation costs, but hopefully we'll be able to make up some of this in some other areas in the gas company. So that's all I got.
I got two things. We finally got a quote back on repairing the roof at the fire department. I put one of your desk, the quote come back at $9,250. This is the most expensive roof that you can put on a metal building, and it wasn't put on properly, so every place that valley touches the roof is going to have to be replaced. I've contacted at least 18 companies. I had 7 come out, and not anybody wanted to bid on it. He showed me what is wrong with the roof, and I agree with him that if we don't get it fixed, it's just going to continue doing the damage to the building. I do have some carpet damage in my office and some ceiling damage in 2 places in the firehouse. We'll address them after we get it to the top. Ethan English is the gentleman's name. He's got us a 5-year warranty on it, and I don't think we can come out any better than getting him to fix our roof.
How long has he been in business, this kind of stuff?
I really don't know. I'm very impressed with him. I mean, we really got up on the roof and looked at everything. They're gonna make the material on the scene. And if we don't do this, then you're looking at replacing the whole roof. It's gonna be at least $40,000.
Do we have any money in his budget to do that this year? We got to, that'll be in next year's budget?
Yeah, I don't know when he's going to get to it, but either way, there's no money in the budget. It's going to have to come from capital outlay.
I don't know if we have any choice.
Well, it's my recommendation. I was hoping it'd come in at 6 to 8, but after getting up there, if you look at the building, there's huge areas that fill into these 2 valleys, actually 3 valleys, and all the material touching those 3 valleys will have to be removed and replaced.
We've got to fix the building. We can't let it get it. I've been up there seeing some of the damage.
Yes.
And we've got to fix it. Regardless of where the money comes from, we've got it in capital outlay. So I'm gonna make a motion, we go ahead and fix the fire department.
Have a motion to fix the fire department roof at the price. Quote, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, signify by no. Motion carried.
If y'all notice in that contract, there's a note in there about any rotten, damaged wood at $30 an hour. I know there's 2 pieces. I don't look at it being more than 2 hours labor to replace those 2 pieces of plywood. Second thing I've got, I appreciate y'all doing that. Second thing I got, our ice makers went out. Our ice maker supplies ice to all the functions you have at City Hall and a lot of the charity events in the town. We had work on it done last year. I have a feeling that the work this year is going to exceed $1,000 on it. I can replace it for $2,700, about $2,800. That's just replacing the top module. We'll still keep the ice chest part, which runs about $1,700. We don't need a few more of those. I've got money, if Jim will be correct in building maintenance, I got enough money to cover that this year. But it's up to y'all, if you want me to try to. I had one technician come out and said it needed a circuit board and a pump, and parts for that's $1,100.
But you also use that when you're fighting fires for ice.
We use ice every day.
Every day for anything that you got a place to go get ice, cool it down for your personnel.
That's we keep ice water on equipment and in the engine house building.
That's at least 10 years old.
You know what? I don't know, and Jim might bring light to this. I think somebody gave the machine and the fire department fixed it to get it to go and start with it. I don't have any idea how old it is.
I think gave them the National Guard originally.
What do they want it back?
I don't know. We might need to ask.
But I really researched and went and visited some companies in town. We have a 600-pound ice machine. The restaurant supply gave me a price of $2,700 for a 250-pound machine. I can replace the same top we've got, and I can get it for $2,800. So I just need approval to get that.
So moved. Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, signify by no. Motion carried. Jim, you have anything?
Well, Brent said something about tearing down the house and we didn't get a motion.
Do we need to, is that the,
What'd you do, put that out for bids, or is it just
No.
one?
We got a quote from one person. It's the person that normally does all the demolition in town. Now, if y'all want us to go out and get more, actual
Can we do
quotes,
that? Yes.
we can bring it back to you.
If you want to go out to bid, we go out and get bids. It's just what we want to do.
I probably, every time we do that, we get some, always higher what he does, he's the cheapest man around.
He's always been the cheapest. He may not be this time, but we'll tell you, we only got the one quote this time. We just got it today. We'll be more than happy in the next 30 days to go back and get more quotes and bring them all back to you next month.
Because you're talking about taking down buildings, trees, and everything.
I personally, that's just, I don't care, but I feel like we need to put it up. I don't think we need to start just saying, we'll let you do it. I don't think.
I have no problem with that. As I said, we didn't get the number and it was a little higher than,
If he's
well,
located-
of course, we also added some big trees to it so it's more than just the house, but I have no problem. And we'll get some quotes and bring them back.
I'm more comfortable, the rest of the board may not be. but that's
No
just-
problem with that.
We'll get official bid, we'll get quotes, we'll bring quotes back.
I think all the boards are probably correct in that. We probably need to get quotes, just to be above board and give everybody an opportunity to bid on.
I don't want the perception of good old boy.
Can I make a suggestion? We did a lot of damage to this house the other day training, and so we need it tore down as soon as possible. could we make it to where the mayor can accept these bids and get it tore down as soon as
Accept the
possible?
lowest bid.
Fine with y'all.
Lowest quote, yeah, lowest, whatever. Yeah.
I'm just scared about the building standing.
Yeah, I don't have any issue. Matter of fact, I'll make a motion that we put it out for bids and give the mayor, the authority to accept the lowest bid.
I'll second.
Can I ask, since it's under 10, can we get the quotes? That way we don't have to go for 2 or 3 weeks. We can go call people to do the demolition on the last
We'll get quotes.
Get quotes from the people we get quotes from when we did the last demolition house. That way
We add that in there just so we hurry up to expedite this thing. That was my concern to begin with, was get it out of there, because I've seen what's been done.
have a motion by Alderman Ferris, do I have a second? Did I get a second?
Second, I already said.
We get a second, have a second by Alderman Barnes. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye.
Aye.
All opposed, signify by no. I will email y'all, we'll get it from one of you. Jerry, you have anything?
No, sir.
Brent, I'm sorry, do you have anything else? Chief?
No, sir.
Mary? No.
Mark, you gave him pictures of this equipment. Have we got approval to sell that yet? If not,
I'm ready to sell it.
we need just a motion to sell this sewer roder and the solar bee on gov deals.
I'll make a motion to approve the sale of sewer water and solar panel, ASAP on gov deals.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, signify by no. Motion carries. Michael?
And I just appreciate, I know that's a fire, so I appreciate our fire department, our street and utility departments for rainy weather we've had. And I know it's stopped up some gutters and drains and caused some issues. And maybe this weather will get it out of here the next day or two. Appreciate all your hard work. Police department too for being out in the weather, they're out writing tickets in order to get there. Y'all get out there and do your job. I appreciate it.
Following along with that, something specific, we've been through the budgeting process. I appreciated the way each of the department heads worked on bringing to us as a board some good numbers to work from. And also the fact got a reserve, because Darrell are just blowing everything. Department heads treat funds as if they were their own. Y'all are cautious in spending it, and it's appreciated.
I've got one thing. I don't know how many board members got a phone call, but it kind of aggravated me because I got numerous phone calls, emails over the city secretary for Mother's Day. I went up there and looked at it because several people called. It was real high, had not been mowed. We got Father's Day coming up this week. We need to make sure it's mowed, take care of it. We put this out for bid, people get it. I think that's either your responsibility or the city to have a schedule of certain times it has to be. Because it was embarrassing to me. A lot of those people from out of town, and it was a disgrace. I'll just be honest. If I stay on the board, I don't ever want to see it happen. Just,
He had some more problems and his mower had broke down.
it's irrelevant though, because we should have taken care of it if he did. You know what I'm saying? When we got a contract with somebody, and you got people from out of town coming to visit their mother's grave, and you got a city cemetery that's 2 foot high in grass, that's not acceptable. That's not acceptable, not to me. Because it's a bad image of our town, and some of those people, there's one from Florida, she was pretty irate, and I don't blame her. My family's buried there, and, I know that things happen, but I'm saying, when things happen, somebody's got to pick up the ball, whether it's your department or the city board's going to have to write a schedule. I don't know, because I've been sitting up here a while, I've been in the city 31 years. I've never had a problem with anything like that in all those years. But it was just, I just hope we take care of it. That's all I got. I commend y'all doing a good job, but like I said, that was just frustrating. And I don't know how many board members you got.
I didn't get any, but I agree with you 100%. I'm on board.
I got problems.
Did you?
I would agree with Bobby, it would be embarrassing, for a situation like that to happen. I personally did not see it. I feel like if someone presents themselves with a bid to maintain the city, they should have a backup mower or somebody to call on to come in case they have a breakdown or are unable to meet their schedule.
I went by and talked to the guy, and I said it needs, we're talking about mowing, and I said it needs to be at least cut every 7 days. That goes back to when we let this out. Of course, I voted for him to take it, but it was only, if you remember, it was only $10 difference in the bids. And the guy that had it last year did I think, a fantastic job. Now, this is the last time that I'm gonna sit here and vote and let somebody have it for $10. Now, when we get a good one to do a job like this, we need to try to keep that guy if it's anywhere in range. $10 is nothing. If that's what it was talked to get, I would give the $10 myself to keep the other guy.
The only problem you got is you have a guy that, and I believe this gentleman has done it prior to that. Even if it's $10 and you don't shoot, and there's no reason on this situation not giving the bid, we're gonna cost us a lot more money selling the lawsuit. Why we didn't give a proper bid out?
Well,
But saying that, if he has problems doing his job, then he do. But here's one option we do have after this year's over. If I'm right, we have the option. The board has the option not to renew it after the first year. Correct?
The contract can be renewed for an additional year for the same amount of money if both the mower and the city agrees to it. Otherwise, you can terminate it at the end of this mowing season.
We can go back to bid again. If we choose after this year, if you remember, we did that on one contract I did was because damage to tomb rocks and damage to stone. We did not renew the next year. We went back to bid. Remember that? So we have that option to do that after this year. If the board is not happy, the board can tell me that we did that. If they have that option after the year, tell me we did.
Mayor, who follows behind this person to make sure he's doing a good job? Who is
I think usually over the years, the public works director has told him that. I think we had another year, my first or second year I was here, we had the guy's equipment just broke down, and Jerry, we just finally told him we went back. I think the board approved it. We went back to the next bidder because he himself said, I cannot do this, and we did it last year. I mean, we did it last year too. We went back to the second bidder last year because the guy said, I can't do this price I dropped. I quoted you.
Yeah, he never started.
I feel like that if Mr. Scales is the looking at, if he needs to follow behind them real close for the next several months, make sure he's getting the job done. And if he's not, then we can do something about it. And when I say that, I've said, if he's got a broken mower, I'm with Miss Faulkner. That doesn't make any difference. He's contracted to take care of the cemetery. He needs to get it done. And I leave it to you to watch after it and see. And if that doesn't happen, then I don't want to wait till the board meeting to know about it. I wasn't up there. I didn't go up there. I've been up there in the past and talked to the Rollins about straightening up some stones and fixing. And hopefully this next budget, we've got some money. We're going to start fixing some of those broken stones and things and set them up. But I feel like that place needs to be taken care of. If he's not doing it, we just need to know about it and take care of it. Thank you.
At this time, I enter a motion to adjourn to reopen the Pier Board. I have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call to order the Henderson Pier Board. We have two things on the Pier Board this time. Two short cause hearings. The first one is Zippy LLC and Mr. George Walker. Chief?
Jerry Paul's here. They had an undercover beer sting on May the 2nd. I'll let Jerry tell you about the buys.
On May the 2nd of this year, I conducted an underage beer operation in all the stores that sell beer, alcohol in the city. I used the subject under the age of 21. I monitored the subject from the time they walked through the door, attempted, or either bought or attempted to buy beer, and from the time they come out. Two of the store's clerks did ask for identification, and at which time the subject did provide them with identification that clearly showed that they were under the age of 21, and they were denied beer at those stores. Two of the stores clerks at Bull Market on West Main and also at Zippy's on 45 North, the clerks did not ask for any identification and did sell beer to the subject. Both clerks have since been in general session. I did issue citations that night to the clerks for selling beer to minors. Give them a general sessions court date. Both clerks have been to general sessions where they did plead guilty and received a fine out of general sessions.
Are you still on board?
No.
But our beer ordinance is pretty clear, and under the Tennessee Code and the Henderson beer ordinance, we've got a policy that we either assess you a $1,500 fine for that, pay it, or suspension relocation permit. And that's normally what we do. You either have a suspension relocation or you pay $1,500 to keep selling without any problem. It's your choice.
Yeah, we're going to pay the fine, but I just want to make clear to the board that it's not our policy to sell to underage or minors. We have a written document that all the clerks have to sign off saying they've been trained not to do this, and she had been trained not to do this.
Does your registers, like a lot of places, have a place where you scan the license?
It doesn't have a license scan, but it prompts you to ask for the age of the individual, and you have to type it in. Okay? It's a manual. You have to manually type in their age.
So does she type that in and still sold it to him? Anyway, that's the policy, so that's your choice to do what you do.
Yes,
Sorry you have a problem with that.
Right.
In a situation like this, do you keep that employee, or?
No, we terminated her for that reason. I can't have any of the employees that are not abiding by the law working for me. That's not acceptable.
Have a motion by Alderman Ferris. Have a second.
Second.
Have a second. All those, any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify by aye. All opposed, say no. Steve Keel.
Yes, sir.
Come by the office tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
Okay, next one is doing business at Family Market, or as we know, the Bull Market. Can you pronounce your name?
Tammy on this job.
Basically the same night and everything. When I run them all together. Do it several times a year. And it's the same. The clerk never asked for identification and sold alcohol or beer to the subject.
Question to Jim. We checked on this, Jim. When was the last time?
I believe it's been approximately 24 to 30 months ago since this establishment was cited for sale of beer to minors. The last thing we had was about 13 months ago, I believe, where we had people brought in.
Yeah. Well,
and he was not in that group. It was the one before. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Paul. Tommy, isn't that about right? Last time.
I thought it had been sooner than that.
The last meeting we had was Odin's Amico and Henderson Food and Fuel at the last meeting. And that's been about
Now, when Jim said it'd been 24 months, I run them throughout the year. That just means.
That's what I'm saying.
Right,
What
right.
the question here, was the question we were asking here.
Right, how long did it be?
Because it's a big difference if it's done prior, if he has a second offense prior.
Yes, second offense within 12 months, he doesn't get the option, it's an automatic 90-day suspension.
So he falls in the guidelines to meet the $1,500.
Yes, or 30 days. Mhm.
And he can choose.
It would be, was it 90 days now, or 1,500, 30 days?
It has to be within the year in order to be 90 days.
Right, but he takes a choice now, it's 1,500 or
30.
30 days. Yeah, 30.
It's still 30.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So it's your choice to choose.
I'll take the fine.
I'll make a motion to approve the fine for family market on 245 West Main.
Have a motion to approve the either 1,500 or 30-day suspension. Fair, do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Are there any further discussion?
Oh, I asked him just like I asked him, employees, the other, she did.
Well, he's my brother, and we've trained him.
Fire your brother. I understand.
But he knows.
All right. All those in favor signify by aye. All opposed signify by no. I think that's one thing that Jerry Paul brought a good point up. I think it's a good point. When we do, when the church, when he does his thing, everybody gets it. Everybody, we know every, matter of fact, this one, they went out in the county and did the one out in the county. As a matter of fact, they made a buy out in the county and one outside the county. So we're required to do these. They do them and they go to every place in the city that does it. Some, like I say, some do it. It depends what clerk's working. Some clerks catch it, some clerks don't. That's something we're required to do. Is there anything else brought up from the beer board? Seeing that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the beer board. So moved. Have a motion to adjourn. Thanks everybody coming out.